Thank you. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to welcome up Reverend Dr. William Bradley Jr. for an invocation.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for your goodness, mercy, and your grace. Lord, we thank you, Lord, for this time, Lord, of gathering, God. We thank you, Lord, for the climate of support that's in this room here, Lord. And we pray, God, you continue, Lord, to look on every organization, Lord, as we need your guidance, Lord, and wisdom, Lord, how we can continue to make a difference in our community. Lord, we just thank you for the food that we're about to receive. We pray that you bless the hands that prepared it. And the Lord, we just thank you for this time, Lord. And we know when we leave this place today that we'll be informed, inspired, and influenced to continue to make the difference in the life of our community. We thank you. We praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Next, I would like to welcome up Representative Chase Tremont for a few remarks.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is an incredible panel that you have here today with the experience that they have, the life experience they have. I have to give a personal shout out to my friend Lane Jennings. He and I played high school basketball together. You're in for a treat from his experience, life experience, and his knowledge. And I'll just say this: I serve as a pastor in my day job, and I have a long time experience with folks that have fallen on bad times. And you're the guy that's got to be there to hold their hands and to talk to their family members and sometimes share the most horrific news imaginable. And I'll tell you, this topic here in recovery and second chances, let me just ask you a question just to think to yourselves. What was the worst thing that you've ever done in your life? Don't answer that question right out loud. But consider that. First of all, I would ask you, aren't you glad you didn't get caught, first of all? And secondly, I would ask you this. Aren't you glad that one mistake didn't define you for the rest of your life? You know, as divided as we are as a nation, and probably always will be, as long as we have people that will continue to look to not kick people when they're down, but rather offer them a hand up once they've fallen, we're always going to be on the right path as a country and as a society. So God bless you all for being here. Thank you.
I'd like to recognize distinguished elected officials with us today. If you could kindly please hold your applause until I complete the list of honoring all of them. Brandon Frey, from Regional Representative from Governor Ron DeSantis. He just texted me. He's running late in traffic, but he is expected to be here. We have our Senators Tom Wright, Representative Chase Tremont, Volusia Sheriff Mike Chitwood, County Council Matt Reinhardt, County Council Danny Robbins, Mayor Nancy Miller of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Mayor Bill Hall, South Daytona, Chris Conamos from Daytona Beach Shores, City Commissioner, Lori Tolland from the Ormond Beach City Commissioner, and Jesse Thompson, Volusia County School District 3. Welcome and thank you all very much. I would also like to recognize the chiefs of police that are joined with us today. We have City of Port Orange Chief Police Manny Marino, and we have our Public Safety Director Michael Fowler from the City of Daytona Beach Shores, and the Town of Ponce Inlet Chief Jeff Glazier. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. We also have city managers with us, Kurt Swartzlander from the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Les Gillis from South Daytona. We are very happy to have you, and a round of applause to all that you do. In addition, I'd like to thank the great team of Volusia County for lending their expertise, including County Manager George Rechtenwald, who is an excellent resource, and I hold great respect for him. He's got deep knowledge of the county, and he's proud to share that knowledge. I'd also like to recognize Michael Ryan, Director of Community Information, Dr. Brad Burdaw, Director of Community Information, Dr. James Fulcher, Medical Examiner, Alex Fox, the Special Projects Coordinator from the Opioid Abatement Funding Program, and Daryl Hill, the Lead Production Coordinator, who is here today with his team that has set up all these mics the past 2 days, and we're just so grateful to have you all here. So a round of applause to all of them. In addition, I promised Dr. Brad Berda that I would mention that the Volusia has a wonderful app, and there's cards at your table. It's called Volusia Helps. We encourage all of you to please download this app. The information that we're gathering today and the resource guides at your desk will be uploaded to this app as another resource. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'd like to recognize the Chamber Board of Directors. We have a number of them here in the room. I greatly appreciate the honor of working with you and giving me the runway to lead such great initiatives. So if you could kindly please stand to be recognized. We also have a number of our great ambassadors that are the friendly face to our chamber. We are known as a very friendly chamber. If you could kindly please stand up to be recognized. We are so grateful to Halifax Health as our title sponsor of this event. I would like to welcome Ann Moderano, who's also a board member, and she's the Chief Communications Officer at Halifax Health. Welcome, Ann.
Well, thank you, Barbara Ann, and thank all of you for being here today. You know, Halifax Health is honored and thrilled to be able to be the title sponsor of this important event today, and I just want to thank you all for taking the time to have the conversation. You know, in healthcare, in the hospital setting especially, we deal with the acute, and very often, too often, we have very good people come in with very bad problems. And our great team, who is there every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which was led by Dr. Veal for many, many years, who you'll hear from, they're there to get that person back to where they can function. But too often, we get to see that same person over and over again. And we do it all again. And that's because we don't have all of the resources that we need on the outside in our communities. And it's not just us, it's everywhere, to help that person stay productive, stay on track, and do what they need to do. And so that's why it's so important that you're here to even just have the conversation, because as you know, many times we don't really want to talk about it. So that's what we're here today to do, and I appreciate that. On behalf of all of my team at Halifax Health, we are appreciative of everything that you do to support us as a community, and we want to do the same for you. So thank you again, and we look forward to continuing this long into the future. Thank you.
At this part of the program, we have what's called table sponsors that come out to share a bunch of different resources. Some is tied to the event today, and others are just great supporters of the Chamber of Commerce. So I'd like to welcome up SMA Healthcare, Bert Thomas. He's the Senior Director of Residents, and we'd love to have you, Residential Services, to speak a little bit about your program and services. Thank you, and welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bert Thomas. I'm with SMA Healthcare. I've been there for about 12 years now. SMA is one of the largest behavioral health organizations in Central Florida. We're in 6 counties. We service both mental health issues and substance use disorders. We also have a primary care facility now down in Daytona on Willis Avenue, where we can serve medical needs for individuals also. I have the residential programs under my span, and that includes the residential adolescent program, the beach house, the men's residential program in DeLand, and also the Sinsfins units and the 2 Daytona Beach work release programs. The 2 Daytona Beach work release programs, there's probably not a restaurant on International Speedway where you won't want to find one of our clients working there. They're serving their last 12 to 24 months of their sentence. They get them out in the community. We do substance use treatment with these guys, and by the time they leave, they're some of the best employees you'll ever have. In our residential adolescent programs, we do 4 months of residential treatment with them, and also at our beach house, we do a 2 to 3 week respite program, where if there's a youth in crisis, we can bring him to the beach house and provide family services for him, residential treatment, and all that as well. And then, of course, our men's residential program out in DeLand, we service all men from 18 and older, treating substance use disorders as well as mental health disorders. And I've bragged enough about the residential, but we do have outpatient services in both sides of the county also, and we are opening a brand new facility in DeLand within the next couple of years. We'll be breaking ground very soon, and we'll have all of our west side services located in one spot, where we'll be doing primary care, we'll be doing outpatient counseling, and that'll be right next door to the men's residential program. So thank you for my minute, and I hope you guys have a great day. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to welcome up Dr. White from Progressive Medical Research.
Well, thank you. This is very important to move on with the program, so I'll be very short. I spent 20 years at Halifax Hospital starting in 1991. I moved into doing clinical trials. We conduct clinical trials pretty much in just about every single disease you can think of. So if you got it, we can help you. We're exploring actually even getting into some mental health trials as well. And a lot of what we deal with stems from mental health. So whether it's Alzheimer's disease, which we're very proud of being a big part in getting the drugs that are currently available on the market to the market. If you have any questions for us, just come to our table or talk to us after, if there's time after that. But anyway, let's move on with the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. We have Serenity Springs Recovery Center. Jason Pryor is here, and Jason is the Community Outreach Coordinator. Welcome, Jason.
Wow, what a beautiful sight to have all our community here together to raise awareness and really deal with the epidemic that's going on. I'm Jason. I'm with Serenity Springs. I'm in long-term recovery myself. I've been with Serenity for about 4 years. We're a residential PHP and IOP substance use disorder and mental health facility. Our client to staff ratio is 2 to 1, a very small, intimate environment. They get a lot of one-on-one work while they're there to dig at the causes and conditions, because you know the drugs and alcohol are a problem, but they're not the problem. And we want to get down to what the real problem is. And I won't take up too much of your time, but we have a booth in the back. Please come get with me. We'd love to be a resource for anybody that needs help. And my job is whoever calls my phone, whether they're a good fit for Serenity or not, I find that patient placement. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next, we have cruise planners, BB Burrows. BB, welcome.
I think the podium's too tall for me. Hi, everybody. My name is BB Burrows with my husband, Bruce. We own a franchise called Cruise Planners, and we sell fun travel. That's our website.com. I've been in the industry for about 30 years. I've worked on board services with Royal Caribbean, Admiral, Premier, Sea Escape, and I know a thing or two about travel. If you're looking for some travel, I'm your girl, BB Burrows Cruise Planners.
And our last table sponsor is Alateen Service, and that is Mary Lou McCumber. Mary Lou, if you could please come up, welcome.
Hi, I'm here to represent Alateen and to get the word out that Alateen is for young people between the ages of 9 and 19 who have or are still being affected with the disease of alcoholism or drug abuse. We find that these young people are so happy to be in a place where they're understood and welcomed and not judged and not criticized. They can share because it's an anonymous program. They can share whatever they want to, and it never leaves the rooms. So I just want to let everyone know that we have a table in the back. We have quite a bit of information that we can provide. It is a great program for those who are suffering because they live or are related to someone with the disease. So come by and see us, and I appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
So at this time, I'm going to give a little overview and my opening remarks, and then we will turn it over into our keynote and our panel discussion. So we are grateful to have all of you here today, 150 in attendance and some walk-ins. I mean, it's standing room only. So that speaks volumes about our community, and a round of applause to all of you for coming out to support this. As we delve into this issue, let's take a moment to reflect the statistics surrounding the opioid-related deaths. Nationally, close to 100,000 lives are lost each year to drug overdoses, the opioids being a factor in a staggering 7 out of 10 overdose deaths. Here in Volusia County, yesterday I spoke to the Volusia County medical examiner, Dr. Fulcher, and he shared that we tragically lost 303 lives to overdose deaths in 2023 alone. While overdose deaths peaked in 2021 to 400 deaths, we have not yet to return to pre-COVID baselines, which began at 58. One of the most striking comparison lies in the chart that he provided me, which was contrasting overdose deaths with motor vehicle accidents over time. And this slide encapsulates the urgency of this issue. It is undoubtedly a very crucial issue. The interpretation of this data is that the disruption in mental health services, substance abuse counseling, and other critical programs during the COVID-19 pandemic compounded the challenges of our workforce going to remote work, making it very difficult for people to lose those connections and people and resources that they once had. Additional data that he wanted me to share was the mean age of death for accidental drug overdose was 50. 67% of accidental drug overdose deaths were 40 years old or older. 9% of accidental drug overdose deaths were less than 30 years old. No accidental drug overdoses were less than 18 years old in 2023. And 70.1% of accidental drug overdose deaths were male. He asked that we also keep in mind that these numbers add up to more than 303 because most of the overdose were with multiple substances present. And he said that it's important to note that heroin was not even in the top 10 drugs. The biggest combination is fentanyl, methamphetamine, thank you, and cocaine. Today, we are honored to have representatives from various sectors, including law enforcement, healthcare, elected officials, small business owners, education, nonprofits, and faith-based organizations joining this endeavor. I mean, that is just remarkable. Thank you all very, very much. Together, we can make a tangible difference in the lives of individuals struggling with substance use disorder and create a more supportive, inclusive workplace for all, saving lives. The business community needs a workforce, and business owners play a vital role in a person's recovery from substance use disorder, without judgment and with compassion. A recovery-friendly workplace initiative program aims not only to prevent substance use disorder, but to create a supportive, safe work environment for those struggling with addiction. Our community is brimming with employers seeking talented individuals with open positions daily. Recognizing that wellness and recovery are holistic endeavors, we're excited to announce today the launch of a recovery-friendly workplace initiative committee in partnership with the Volusia Recovery Alliance. Over the past 6 months, I've become friends and trusted colleagues with Karen Sherapek, the Executive Director of the Volusia Recovery Alliance. Our newly formed Workforce Recovery Friendly Committee is a subset of our Workforce Committee currently chaired by Christian Johansson. We will convene in the next month to outline objectives and strategies to have the greatest impact locally. We envision developing a toolkit to streamline the implementation of this program for small business owners and like-minded individuals to join our committee. We want your expertise at the table. Our aim is to pilot this initiative, ensuring scalability and sustainability for the future. To begin this work, we have already started to put together resources that are in front of you today. In addition, funding opportunities will be explored, and we are excited with Volusia County in the room today. They are in the process of rolling out an application process for approximately $4 million in the opioid settlement dollars. I each want you to know that I have experience in running a similar program in upstate New York. I personally know 13 friends that passed away from an overdose. And in those 13, my police chief in Oneonta said to me, Barbara Ann, you need to carry Narcan no matter where you go when you're out in the community. Well, sure enough, in a Walgreens restroom in Oneonta, there was a woman unconscious, immediately called 911, and I had Narcan. 911 told me exactly what to do. I administered it, and this woman is alive today. Today, you will understand the importance of Narcan and how each of us have a responsibility to know how to use it and to help distribute it more throughout our community. By the conclusion of this program, we seek your commitment to this vital cause. We will have our tabletop discussion to incorporate all of your ideas and feedback. And I believe in the power of people working together. Community partnerships make a big collective impact difference. And on that note, I now welcome my board chair, Michael Agri, to introduce our keynote presenter.
Thank you. Beginning in May of 2006, Sheriff Chitwood was fortunate to call Volusia County his home, where he served as Daytona Beach police chief for a decade before deciding to run for sheriff. As sheriff, his priorities have been combating juvenile crime, protecting seniors, strengthening neighborhoods, expanding community outreach efforts, and maintaining open lines of communication. He places a high priority on encouraging innovation and creativity in the workplace. To be successful, this requires strong bonds of partnership with the community and everyone working together. Please join me in welcoming Sheriff Mike Chitwood.
Good afternoon and thank you, and I appreciate that he didn't read my obituary. Normally when they get up here they read that and you're like, I know what they're going to say when I die. Barbara Ann, thank you for putting this together and stealing my thunder and stealing all my statistics. I appreciate that immensely. I think I speak for all the chiefs in this room. Collectively, I don't know how many years of experience we have together. We're certainly not people who were cops for 5 years for a cup of coffee and have all the answers, but that's what we see out there. This is probably, and the chiefs will probably agree, in our careers, the biggest threat to our community and to our country and to our children and to our co-workers. It's without a doubt. When you see what we're going through now and you hear the numbers, just to sum it up, since 2020, almost 1,200 Volusia County residents have lost their lives from overdose, with fentanyl is involved in that. Almost 8,500 have overdosed in that 4-year, not even a 4-year period. That's what we're seeing. We just gave an award out yesterday to a Holly Hill police officer who in the past month administered Narcan and CPR 4 times. 4 different individuals, 4 different places of the city, and she saved their lives. That's what we're seeing. That's how big this is. When I first began my policing career, I'm sure everybody in here will say the same thing, an overdose and you died, well, that was the decision you made. You made a decision to buy drugs, and that's the consequences of your decision. When we saw fentanyl start to roll through the country, and we didn't see it like they saw it in the Northeast, we were a little late to the party. And then we started to see it. It required law enforcement to have a paradigm shift. And that shift was, we can no longer have that attitude. We have to investigate every single death as a homicide. And our Senator Wright and Senator Lee, and well, soon to be Senator Leak, I hope, our representatives joined a lot of other representatives in Tallahassee and started to attack that mentality and start to go after and let state attorneys and medical examiners make out murder charges. So as we are now fully staffed, in October we started an ODTF, Overdose Task Force. All they do is go out to scenes of deaths and overdoses and work backwards and try to go after the dealer. Because the dealer knows what they're selling. They know people are dying, and it's our job to bring them to justice. We have 9 cases that we're waiting since October to present in front of the grand jury. And some of these folks are responsible for more than 1 death. They're responsible for 4, 5, and 6, but we're only able to get them on 1 of those charges. And that's good enough for us. The other thing that we have in Volusia County that I'm very proud of County Council partnering with me was we got a family reunification center, aka a juvenile center, juvenile, it's a JAG, assessment center. That's the A in there. Just like you couldn't get methamphetamine, I couldn't get assessment out. And what we're seeing in there is the Department of Juvenile Justice has given us the ability to start to test the urine of these kids. They get arrested, they get sentenced to a drug program, so we administer the drug tests. And the drug tests, we get the results before the court gets it. And what we're seeing is a majority of these kids who believe they are vaping THC oil, in reality, they're showing up traces of fentanyl, traces of methamphetamine, traces of cocaine, and when questioned by the counselors, they're like, I was just vaping THC oil. That's how it is drifted now into the vapes, that these kids are testing positive for more addictive drugs to make it more addictive to the vaping. Carl Persis shared a statistic the other day. I almost fell off the bench when I heard it. We were at Hinson Middle School to talk about the effects of vaping and what you think you're buying off your friend. And he said that in Volusia County schools, they average 1 kid a week is taken out by evac and hospitalized. 1 kid a week. So we're not only talking about the averages that Barbara gave out, that, middle 50s, and we look at those statistics, it's starting to filter down into our schools. And that is just horrible. It's destroying our future. And the other thing we talk about today, when you talk about employing people and giving people a second and third and fourth and fifth chance, in some cases, how many chances? 18 chances. I'm sure we're going to hear from Reno? Okay. Narcaned 18 times. And he's here today. He's a dad, and he's a productive member of our community. So I think I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that. So we're discovering that in our family reunification center, that this thing knows no boundaries. And the other thing, you look at 1,200 deaths, and people there's a stigma attached to it, why people don't ask for help. There's a stigma to having an addiction problem. And let's face it, don't put your hands up. How many people have high blood pressure? How many people have diabetes? How many people have heart disease? Did we ask for that? None of us asked for that. It's the same thing that's there with addiction. Nobody asked to be addicted, whether it's sex, candy, drugs, alcohol, no matter what it is. Nobody asked for that. Speaking of addictions, I know just who this is. That's the BOD, Bank of Dad. They know it's payday. They're calling to write a check. So we have to stay focused on who's dying here. And who's dying here is not criminals. We do a workup on every single person who has died. We want to know everything about them as we launch this investigation. Very few people are criminals. They are our brothers, our sisters, our husbands, our wives, our grandparents, our neighbors, our coworkers, our friends, our cousins. That's who is dying. And the people that are out there peddling that poison, they know that the folks they're selling to have an addiction. They know that. But they continue to put it out there anyway, and they know, because we follow their social media, They'll warn their customers, and that makes them a drug dealer with moral skills or morality. Because when we lock them up, they're like, hey, man, I warned them. This stuff was double what I normally sell, so I put them on notice. A drug dealer with a conscience, can you imagine? But that's what you're dealing with. The other thing we're seeing is the party drugs. Adderall, MDA, Percocets. We just had a Percocet overdose. Somebody died over Christmas holiday. Where when we're hitting these drug houses, we're seizing pill presses. So what they're doing is they're pressing pills to look exactly like what they're selling. So if you're looking to buy Percocets on the black market, it looks like that. If you're looking to look at MDA, they think they're buying MDA. In reality, they're ingesting 100% fentanyl. And in the case we had over Christmas, a woman clearly had an opioid problem, tells her friend, the doctor won't write me a script for any more Percocets. You know where I can get them from? And she says, yeah, I know a lady. She knows somebody can write scripts all the time. So they go over to a place in Daytona. She buys 5 Percocets at $10 a pill. She pops one before she leaves the apartment. By the time she gets to Holly Hill, she's dead. It's the second time we've popped the same person for selling pills for an overdose death. Now this time, we're hoping she's going to rot in jail because Daytona hit her 2 weeks prior to us hitting her. It's out there. It's pervasive. It's all over the community. When I leave here, we're having a press conference in Holly Hill. Since we are the quasi-police department now, we're starting to go back through their complaints, and we just hit a house on Flomish where we recovered, it's like 50 grams of fentanyl, 2 firearms, all kind of cocaine, and it was an open-air drug market outside of the house there that the neighbors have been complaining about. So it is all over. We are the smallest country in the world. We're the richest country in the world. We ingest more illegal drugs than any other country in the world. And having been to the border, I can tell you, I don't know how we're ever going to stop it because it is coming in by plane, train, automobile, on foot, United States mail. It is coming in droves. So when you see, they seized $20 million worth of fentanyl or $20 million worth of cocaine, another $100 million got in. It just comes in. I've watched it come in. I've been there twice. It is out of control, and they know that's just the southern border. Nobody talks about the northern border, and nobody talks about the United States Postal Service, who is the biggest drug dealer in the country, along with UPS and FedEx. A couple years ago, we had a case with a young man in Ormond Beach. Comes from a very prominent family who him and his girlfriend decided they were going to get in the fentanyl business, and they were going to sell it on the black market. So their fentanyl was being shipped from China to the post office in Ormond Beach, on the beach side. They would show up to pick up their mail, this was before COVID, with the mask on and rubber gloves to pick up their package. Nobody thought that was suspicious. I don't work at a post office, I don't know why. Then he would go home, sell it on the dark web, go back to the post office, and mail it out all over the country. And when we seized his bank account, he had close to $2 million in there. And he was in business less than 18 months. That's how, God bless you, that's how prevalent it is. So this is a serious, serious matter. Karen can tell you how much Narcan they give out at concerts. It saves lives. It's important that it's in the schools. It's important it's on school buses. It's important that everybody has access to that. And it's also important to remember that these folks are our community, and we need to help them get through that. You need to help them, get them out of the woods, to see there's a future, that there's employment, that you can put this behind you and become a productive member of our society. Thank you for your time. I know there's a lot smarter people here than me. So.
At this time, the panel here will self-introduce and give a little bit of background about how they're helping people in active recovery and those seeking to be in active recovery, the resources available. And just giving you the lineup of the panel, we have Karen Sherapek, Executive Director of Volusia Recovery Alliance. We have Matt Reinhardt, Volusia County Councilman, District 2, Danny Robbins, Volusia County District 3, Lane Jennings Jr., Program Supervisor Coordinator from the Adult Behavioral Services at Halifax Health, Attorney Doug Collins from Cobb and Cole, and Dr. Stephen Veal from Shoreline Medical Addiction Treatment, as well as Halifax Health. So we'll start with you, Karen, and I believe is your microphone on there? Just press the button.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Sherapek, the Executive Director of the Volusia Recovery Alliance. I am a person in long-term recovery myself of 41 years. And I'm truly here to tell, first of all, I'm blown away about how many people are here, so many of our community partners, which we can't do this work without you all. And I'm so appreciative of every single person in this room. So I'm here to tell you that recovery is possible, especially when you have resources, that you don't have to go through this alone, and also that for sure, you need to know that street drugs are lethal and that one pill can kill, because it's just unbelievable how much poison there is out on our streets. So the Volusia Recovery Alliance has been in existence since 2019 as a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are considered a recovery community organization, and we are in place to help people get into recovery and stay in recovery. And that includes helping families as well as allies and employers to get the resources that they need to help each other. So the Volusia Recovery Alliance does give out a lot of Narcan. We've given out well over 19,000 Narcan kits since we've gotten our contract from the Department of Children and Families to do this work. And it is one of the biggest decisions that we made early on was that we were going to distribute Narcan as part of harm reduction activities to help our community survive this horrible disease that, you know, is definitely out there, right? It is a brain disease. It's a chronic condition. And I'm here to tell you, though, that there is hope and that recovery is possible, especially given resources. So the Volusia Recovery Alliance has a lot of resources. We consider ourselves the leader in recovery resources. You can call our 386-777-7337 peer line and ask for help. And we have staff in recovery that can help direct the question or the need that you have. We have amazing staff that, as Sheriff Chitwood brought up Rhino. Rhino is someone that survived overdose 18 times and has lived to tell about it, lived to recover. He's a dad. He's in charge of it. We have a dad's program that we offer to dads in recovery that he leads up. And a lot of that particular meeting is about ACEs, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And then we teach protective factors. Because just because you've had a bad childhood and have the chance of becoming involved with drugs, it doesn't mean that you're destined to do that. Because families can put protective factors in place so that their children have a better chance at not having chronic disease. I'm not sure how long I have to talk, but we do have many mutual aid groups. We have one-on-one recovery coaching, and we also, one of the programs that we've recently been given a contract from LSF Health Systems is our Building First Responder Resilience Program. And I am so thrilled to be able to help first responders get the help they need and to really work on decreasing stigma, which is the biggest barrier to recovery. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my longtime friend and colleague, Lane Jennings.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lane Jennings. I currently serve at Halifax Health as a program supervisor for adult psychiatric. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a master's certified addictions professional. A little bit more of an administrator now, but I oversee the therapy services at Halifax for adult psychiatric. I'll go ahead and self-disclose. I am a person in long-term recovery. I am involved at the VRA. I serve several different positions at the VRA on the board and some other things. And it's just, you know, listening to the statistics today and to hear about fentanyl and to have some really close friends who have died over the last 15 years It warms my heart to see all of us together, some really important players here today. And so I'm very hopeful that, that we can raise some awareness and begin to talk a little bit more and just ultimately chip away at the stigma. The stigma is what really keeps people oppressed and pushed down. And so I certainly don't have all the answers, but I do think that I can contribute to some really important discussions about what we can all do to raise some awareness and come together and help some of the some of the most important people in our community who are vulnerable and need our help. There are several colleagues here. I did ask Travis Langston to join me today, who's also an addiction specialist, and Dr. Melanie Smith is also here. She serves she's the program supervisor for the child adolescent facility. So if you guys could please stand up for me, just want to recognize you. I'm going to go quick. I do want to mention one thing. Yesterday in the park over here, I met a guy who's a sponsee of mine, a guy that I've gotten to know over the last 6 months, and he's new in recovery. He did 12 years in prison. And I asked him, I said, tell me a little bit about the barriers. Tell me about some of the things that are challenging for you. And he's familiar, with the mentality and the people and the things that go on in prison. Some of the things that I think we might not know about or may take for granted. So he talked to me about some things as simple as not having the confidence and not believing that they have the ability to even fill out an application or how to engage appropriately in an interview. These things are just so simple, but I think these are some things that just go over our heads sometimes that we don't even think about. And so, he talked to me about the importance of, and this really spoke to me, about the importance of this attitude that there are some places in the community. There's restaurant industries, and there's tree companies, and there's, I know people that own a drywall business and build docks and seawalls. Some people that have been very successful in recovery that are all about hiring convicted felons because they really can be wonderful workers. And the mentality is that people just don't even know how to get started, and they don't believe. So he talked to me, and this is something that he's really embraced. He talked to me about, this is just a beginning. This isn't the end point. This is a place where I can get started. This is a place where I can begin to build. And then from there, some doors open up. But I think the biggest challenge is that people don't know how to even get started. People that have been incarcerated, that have significant legal histories, they don't know how to get started. And I think the VRA, we're growing, and I think we're going to be able to have more of an impact. And so I talked to him about, starting a group and having a peer-led thing where we can educate people and we can come together and we can start these conversations for some of these people who are having difficulty entering. The recidivism rate is crazy. Convicted felons who get out of prison, they're back in prison within 6 months. And a big part, the research suggests, a big part of that is because they're not working, they don't have stable housing, and they don't have transportation. And if we can come together and help with that, if that's a list of resources of people that will hire convicted felons, then I think that could be a way for us to begin. The last thing I want to mention is the second piece to my understanding of why we're here together today. And those are people who are in the workforce now who are struggling with alcohol or substance abuse, and they're afraid to get help. They're afraid, the stigma, they're just afraid that their employer is going to turn that against them, and they're going to lose their jobs. They're going to lose the ability to provide for their children or maintain their housing. And I think it's important for us, and I'm thinking about Halifax Health here because I work there, and it's such a special place for me. I take such great pride. I went back and looked at my emails, and it was July of last year, July of 2023. So we're coming up on a year where we sent out an email raising awareness of, if you're having problems with mental health or you're having problems with substance abuse, here's the process. Here's what you can do, and you're protected, and so I think it's important that we're here. I think we can do a little better job at Halifax with this. The last thing I want to say before I turn it over is it's important. Every institution, every place of employment, every university, there needs to be a very clear path. What can I do? Who is my contact person? What is the path to get some help? You know, I'm going to mention something really quick. I interviewed a girl who was at a university. I'm not going to mention which university, and she was also employed here in the community. And I brought that to her. I said, "Is there a clear path for you? Do you know the point of contact or what you would do?" And she said, "At my school, the consensus is, the mentality is, the student body doesn't feel safe. They feel like if they go and ask for help, the university is going to use that against them." And to me, that was disgusting. On the contrary, this girl works, and I'll mention the name, this girl works at Publix. And she said there is a clear path, there's a contact person, and it's very clear that Publix will embrace us. They will help us through the process. They will not use that information against us. So I just think it's important that every institution, every university has a clear path, has a point of contact, and they know where to go to get some help. That's the way we're going to chip away at this stigma. That's the way we're going to start to have an impact on our community. So those are just some of my ideas. I'm really grateful. This is incredible that I'm even a part of a discussion like this. I'm so humbled to be here. Sheriff Chitwood mentioned some important. Fentanyl is the leading cause of death right now for adults ages 18 to 49. The leading cause of death. What gets your attention more than that? You know, and these are our children. This is our future. You know, so I'm really passionate about this. I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Reinhardt, County Counsel for District 2, which encompasses this area here. Yes, Danny, I'm going to talk about the jail. So he teases me all the time on the dais about that. My former career, I retired from the Volusia County Division of Corrections in 2017 after serving just over 30 years in the corrections for the Volusia County. I started off as a CO1 back in 1986 and retired as the warden in 2017. So during that time, why I mentioned that is during that time frame, as I was coming up through the ranks, this wasn't important to me. Full disclosure, it really wasn't. You know, I see the same faces coming in. It's just part of what we're doing. Remember, I'm a 22, 23-year-old guy that didn't care. Well, then you evolve. And that's what we're trying to do today, is to help people, educate them to evolve, to get better educated, to hit that turning point like I did. So as I come up through the ranks, I had the opportunity, thankfully for a wonderful director that we had, who put me in charge of an inspection group where we inspected jails throughout the state of Florida. And I took that role seriously, and I'll get to why this relates to the recovery part. It gave me the opportunity to see how other jails operate. And I had an idea, the light bulb came on, an epiphany. I said, what if we had something like what Manatee County has, one of the jails we inspected, and it was an inmate farm. And it taught the inmates to put their hands in the earth, to get a trade, to learn how to build, learn how to do things with their hands, use their minds, and hopefully slow down that recidivism rate that you referred to. So I thought, I would love to be able to have that opportunity to do that in Volusia County. So it never came to fruition. I retire. I have the opportunity to run for county council, and I tell you, that's the first thought in my mind. What can we do? Well, we ran into the big obstacle, and it is staffing. Like everywhere that you have, we were down 50, 60 positions. I know the sheriff can attest to this. We were down, and we couldn't get it started. So I said, what can we do? I don't want to just hit the brakes just because of staffing. What can we do? We got to do something to help people. So we were coming up with other programs that we met with Daytona State, the schools, who are very, and UCF, where we're going to possibly start a virtual welding program. And I'll tell you, as a former warden, you think inmates with welding? Well, it was virtual. I'm okay with that. So no product taking back, you know, and it was mobile. We could bring it out to the jail. We could maintain the security that we have to, because that still has to come into play. Some other things that we talked about doing, or actually we're going to do, there's the opportunity of, and I know I'm going to get some laughs here thinking about a jail environment, a cosmetology program, a barbering school. These are great fields. Somebody brought it to my attention at Daytona State that, ladies, I don't have this issue, but eyelashes. where people are doing this, and it's a six-figure amount per year that they're making for this. So keep that in mind. A sprinkler installation. We live in Florida. Almost every piece of property has it. Learning how to do that. So we've got several programs that we're going to try and kick off in the interim to where we can help reduce that recidivism rate. And in connection with Karen, and we talked right when I was campaigning about how important it was for the involvement of recovery to be installed in the jail. And we had certain programs. We had a few, but it has grown. And we want to continue to grow. And that's what I love about this relationship that we have. We need to continue to grow. So it's not just about AA and NA. It's not just about the inmate getting his GED, but it's about the individual, and I'm going to get away from the word inmate. It's about teaching the individual a trade, feeling proud about something, being able to not have to worry about where he's going to get his next drug. So we get the help from the recovery aspect post-incarceration. We're training them beforehand. So it was just another avenue to try to get them from coming back through the back door, so to speak. So I'm very passionate about that. One of the other things that small businesses were very important to me, and one of the things that we had that discussion when Barbara Ann and I were talking, I said that stigma, to remove that stigma, and we had the conversation. I told her about our programs that we wanted to do. And one of the things, how I want to label that, is I want to call it a second chance program, because it is a second chance. And we're going to label it that, and we're going to go with that. So I'm not saying anything out of turn that you don't already know about. But anyways, I want to be able to. And I started to say this is kind of funny, but there's nothing funny about it. Weird how life does. Weird how life takes you and transitions you. So we're trying to get all these things off the ground. And something happened in my life that really impacted me that fit into this. So and bear with me, on the 29th of this month will be 1 year that my brother died from an overdose. I wish I was there. I wish I was there. So it's important. It hits every one of us. Everybody in this room somewhere, somehow, some way has been in contact with somebody that either has an addiction or has worst case scenario like what I went through. It touches everybody. Somebody in your community, a neighbor. And remember, these second chance individuals that I'm referring to are your neighbors. It's your community. We have to get in there and do something to help them. And I won't bore you with anything else, but thank you for this opportunity. I'm really excited about this.
Thank you, Matt. And I just really want to thank everybody here in attendance today. It's really overwhelming and such a powerful statement to our community in terms of the outreach and the ability that you guys have identified a major problem in our community. And we're just not sitting here talking about it, we're doing it. So thank you guys. Real quick, Danny Robbins, I'm your Volusia County Councilman for District 3. That encompasses Port Orange, portion of Port Orange south of Dunlawn, all the way down to State Road 46, past Oak Hill. Prior to my elected official career, the sheriff thought it was a great idea to give me a gun and a badge at 19. I was still a teenager. Couldn't buy ammunition, so go think about that for just a second. I worked in Daytona Beach for close to 10 years. I dispatched prior to that in upstate New York, Barbara Ann, in a little town called Saugerties, which no one has probably ever heard about, but it's next to Woodstock. How many people have heard about Woodstock 69? Yeah. Yep, it was on our property in 1994, so that's Saugerties' claim to fame. But long story short, during my tenure in Daytona Beach as a police officer, I served in multiple capacities. One of them was patrol. The other one was the motor unit, the traffic unit. The other one was street crimes, where we dealt with narcotics and prostitution. And no, I was not a good prostitute at all. We dealt with the street-level narcotics. We saw it in our families. We saw it in our schools. We saw it in the street. We often saw it in the workplace. The sheriff had started, or the chief at the time had started a drug testing program internally, which kept an eye on that and actually raised the standards throughout the department, throughout the city. So thank you for that. Moving forward, on the street crimes unit, we also dealt with the search warrants. So we got a first-hand experience by seeing this stuff through, whether you're doing a drug buy on the street, whether you're writing the 707 or the charging affidavit, whether you're writing the search warrant, whether you're knocking on the judge's door to get that search warrant signed, and then at the last part, executing that search warrant. And then afterwards, logging everything that multiple people have talked about, the drugs, the weapons, everything afterwards, and then seeing it off to the case in the trial and seeing it through with the state attorney. So we had a long career there in Daytona Beach. I'm also a business owner, but most importantly, where this hits home and where it's scary for me and scary for most of you is I'm a parent. I have a 9-year-old son, Carson, a little 1.5-year-old baby girl, Reagan, and I'll tell you what, I didn't remember this stuff when I was in high school. I graduated high school, don't judge, in 2003. But, you know, I didn't hear about this stuff, and it is evolved and it has morphed into something so much worse. It's no longer marijuana. You're looking at, you know, fentanyl, even heroin, meth, and everything that these brainiacs put together, these chemicals. You just don't know what you're getting and what you're dealing with anymore, and it's scary. It's scary for those kids. So where my ability comes in on the council is to not only relate and have that captive audience with this subject, but also to provide a platform to get this message out in terms of what this community is doing and what we're doing about it. And one of the things I'm most proud of in the council, and I want to thank Matt, thank the sheriff in our state, law enforcement is our probably #1 priority in the state of Florida. And I say that because it's a wave. We didn't have this wave, I want to say 15, 20 years ago. You'll see public safety is #1, and what I'm very proud of is the record funding. And I don't think there's anybody in Central Florida or the state that has matched our funding increases for our law enforcement, for our first responders, for our corrections. And really proud of that. And just to close this out as well, we also chair the Opioid Abatement Board, and we've been doing that here for a year. Long story short, it was a settlement that went through the court system where we just got $4 million, and it's going to be incremental over the next 18 years where we're going to be getting funding to attack this issue that's plaguing not just our community, but our state and our country. So thank you guys. Thank all the representatives and elected officials for everything you do. This is so important to each and every one of us, and our door in District 3 and on the council is always open. So thank you guys so much.
Hi, I'm Stephen Veal. I'm an emergency physician with Halifax Health. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be sitting at this table talking about this issue. It was not something that was on my radar. But I think similar to what other people have mentioned, the opioid crisis happened anyway. When I was director at over the emergency departments, we started seeing just a steady rise in overdose deaths, and we really had nothing to do to address it. We saw people come in that had a near fatal overdose who had gotten Narcan, and we had very little in the way of resources to give them. And so we started looking for solutions. We partnered with SMA Healthcare, and we started an overdose intervention program, which allowed peer specialists, people with lived experience, to come meet with patients in the emergency department that had had an overdose, started offering treatments with medications for addiction treatment starting in the emergency department, and doing a warm handoff directly to substance use treatment providers like SMA. Following that, I started looking around. I started really believing in the medications that can be used to treat addiction, and realized that where I live down in southeast Volusia, New Smyrna, there really was nothing available. People were having to drive up to Daytona, drive up to Port Orange, coming as far south as Titusville, and there just weren't other options there. And so a year ago, a partner, Jamie Ponte, she's a nurse practitioner, and I opened an addiction clinic in Edgewater just to be able to offer medications for addiction treatment. Which is really kind of full circle. I trained at Hopkins in Baltimore, and when we first started training, there was methadone, there was heroin, all kinds of problems, and the social worker said, whatever you do, don't write for these medications in the ER. They thought there was just going to be a line of patients coming out looking for it, and now, 10 years later, you're like, I think, what we should do? We should really write for these medications. So it's been a mentality shift from what we were trained to do to what we needed to do, and so I really empathize with the law enforcement who I think have gone through this same mind change about how we need to approach this issue. And so I'm happy to be here. I'm happy we're talking about this now that I work kind of firsthand in the clinic with people who are just entering recovery and struggling into recovery, being able to find a job is a big, big deal for them. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Doug Collins. I'm a partner at Cobb Cole. First and foremost, thank you, Barbara Ann and the Chamber, for putting this event on. I do have to say, there may have been somewhat of a mistake. I feel like I am woefully underqualified to be up here compared to everyone else. What I will say, though, is the vast majority of my practice is litigation. And part of that, a big part of that, is employment law. And what I tell my clients is, if you're seeing me as a litigator, unfortunately, that probably means something has gone wrong, and we're trying to fix it. The benefit of seeing me from the employment side is we get to be proactive, and we get to plan, and we get to go over and go through policies and procedures and figure out what you can do as an employer to serve not only your business, but your employees as well. So from that perspective, I'm like I think Lane said, I'm humbled to be here and be able to share what I do know, but I would absolutely defer to any of the substance abuse specialists that you've already heard from as far as the specifics. My role is really just to try to make sure an employer knows what they can and can't do, and frankly to allow them to create a path for their employees to, one, get the help when they need it, but also to bring in employees who may otherwise not have an opportunity that they really frankly should. So, with that being said, I'll turn it over.
So we received some questions, and we did the best we could to prioritize some of these questions. But one is, how can employers help reduce stigma to fully support employees in recovery? And please, anyone, feel free.
I'll go. So education is super important, and getting the word out that, helping to get the word out that it is a chronic disease and that there's hope for recovery. And really plugging into the different resources within our community that can help people get into recovery and sustain recovery. And I am asking for just your, I forgot to mention that we are a mini career link center, that we have staff trained now that can help people navigate Employ Florida and get jobs. We also do a lot with exemptions, which are important for the people with lived experience that may have gotten in trouble in their active use, and we do a lot of that work as well. So I think really everybody knows somebody that struggles. Compassion is one of the biggest benefits and help for people, but really our stories have power, and encouraging people to say, I'm in recovery too, is really important, or I have family that's in recovery too, and really getting the dialogue out there throughout the community, throughout our businesses, and as we meet people to really have the compassion. The best medicine of all is love and compassion. Thank you.
We have a law enforcement question, and that is, how are drug dealers and drug pushers dealt with and in the court of law?
Well, I don't think that's a law enforcement question. I think it's more for the state attorney's office.
Attorney, but
Our job is to lock them up and then present the case there. But I can tell you, and I'll speak for all of us in this room, there is a concerted effort to share resources that when a complaint comes in, whether that complaint's in Holly Hill or Ponce Inlet or in Daytona, depending on how the depth and breadth of that problem, the resources that we're going to direct toward that person. Because there is no jurisdictional boundaries when it comes to these scumbags. They're slinging that poison everywhere. So it has to be a concerted effort. The legislature has done a great job enhancing the penalties. When you get these folks, the prosecutor's office, they do everything they can. The problem is, it's like whack-a-mole. Because when you take one out, two other ones pop up behind it, because it is so lucrative. I mean, you have children selling out of their parents' house because that's how their mothers are making money. We serve search warrants on homes at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when we're kicking in the front door. The fentanyl's on the table that they're cutting, and the kid's school bag is right there. And they're in the house while all that's going on. So it's pretty in-depth.
The other question is, and I didn't know this, Sheriff Chitwood, the question was, is there a drug seizure in Volusia? Czar.
Yep.
Czar in Volusia County, and can you explain what that is?
There is not. Some presidential administrations had a drug czar, and their thing was to put together a plan that you can or cannot follow. Keep in mind, we have 12 police departments in Volusia County. Everybody does their own thing, their own way, and when we need to work together, we work together, and that's really the way it should be. There is no one best method for everything.
Other questions that came in, does the business have information in their business bulletin board on alcoholism, addiction? Is human resource departments including this kind of information in their employee handbooks? So for me to help answer that is it varies based on business to business. Some of the small businesses I would say no, and that's why we want to act as a resource to them. We are using some of the best practices. One of the things that I had the opportunity was to be part of a healthy community initiative that was funded by Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And that Healthy Community Initiative, I was one of 10 chamber executives to travel the country. We went to the major cities, LA, New York City, Boston, and we wound up in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we took all the best practices working with the police departments as well as the chambers of commerce, how they collaborated and took best practices of how they were addressing the opioid epidemic. And it really was reflective of the New Hampshire model of being the recovery-friendly workplace initiative, and how they started to develop policies in their handbooks. They started to send out community-wide emails. They started to put out flyers. So I have all of those resources that we are going to bring to the table in our workforce subcommittee and really start to drill down on how it's going to reflect here in this community. While there's best practices in these major cities, we want to reflect our community. So if there anybody else on the panel that would like to add to any of that?
I'll just add that there's a matter of best practices. There's also a matter of what is legal and what's not legal. But as far as I think the original question was what is being posted, it does depend. There are certain federal and state requirements that employers do have to post. For example, if they participate in the Florida Drug-Free Workplace Act, they have to make postings there. What I would say is for employers who are part of that act, one, the act is good because it's not just anti-drugs, it's encourages recovery and treatment as well. But the biggest thing employers can do, frankly, is educate, one, themselves on what is entailed in the act, but also what the protections are, because I think we've heard the term time and time again is stigma. And by being open, having an open door policy and reducing the stigma, I think that there's a lot of available protections and opportunities for employees that they might not know about.
Thank you. Final question, are there any public officials or law enforcement aware of the Safe Street programs and how we would like to either implement or a similar program here in Volusia County?
We are, depending on your department size, we participate in Safe Streets that's run by the FBI. We also have task force that are assigned to DEA. We also have task force that are assigned to Homeland Security. We run the Volusia Bureau of Investigations, where every city in Volusia County has the option to send 1 or 2 investigators to me. And then we work on a county-wide basis, and then all seizures are distributed equally. So I can tell you that what we can humanly possibly do in law enforcement, partnering with our municipalities, the state, and the federal government, everybody's there. The problem is the influx is so great. We're not stopping it. I mean, like I said earlier, you seize 20 million, 120 million is getting in. That's where the big problem is with that. And I'll pontificate a little further if you don't mind.
Please,
I never
please.
get a closed audience, and I'm not running for office or anything. But Karen came to me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and had this great idea, and she had no money, and we're able to use those seized drug assets to help support Karen and get her up and running. So she is an important peg in this. But to fight this epidemic, in our opinion, it's got to be a three-legged stool. You have to have good law enforcement that's on all pages, is hitting the dealers, hitting the suppliers, hitting. You have to have education is leg number 2, and leg number 3 is treatment. And they're all interdependent. You can't have one without the other. They all lean on one another. And I don't think we do a good enough job in the state of Florida of funding people like Karen, of funding things like Lane is trying to do. And that's something that has to change. It takes money to survive 18 Narcan hits and be able to be a productive person. You got to have patience, and you got to have the resources to get that done.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this point, we'd like to thank the panel as outstanding. We appreciate very, very well done. With this captured audience, we would like to now welcome up Missy Elberby. She's the office manager and outreach specialist at Volusia Recovery Alliance to give us some Narcan training. Welcome, Missy.
You want to use Senator Wright as an example? You want to use Senator Wright as an example?
I think we'll be okay. Good afternoon. My name is Missy. I'm a mother, an employee, a friend, a consumer, a taxpayer, and I'm also a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder. I recover loudly so others do not die silently. I'm here today to give you an overdose response reversal training, and I'm very nervous, so thank you for your patience. Let's start by talking about the characteristics of an overdose. You may see one or more of the following: discoloration of the lips, struggling to breathe, pinpoint pupils, no response to stimuli, you know, the good noogie you used to give, no breathing or gurgling when they are breathing. These, along with obvious signs of substance use, are sure signs of an issue. You may ask, what if it is not an overdose? Narcan will not help with anything other than an opioid or a synthetic opioid overdose. It will not harm someone who is having a heart attack or a low blood sugar, and you're covered under the Good Samaritan law to help another person. Your first step is always assess the situation. You're going to make sure that you're safe and that the individual is as safe as can be. Example, if they're in the middle of the street, get them out of the middle of the street. Don't worry about hurting them, because at this point, they're dead. Call 911. If you're alone, you call 911. You let them know that I have a suspected overdose, I have Narcan, and I'm going to administer it. Please send help. If you're not alone, pink dress, please call 911 and let them know we have an overdose. Place the individual on their back and tilt their chin up like this. You're going to take the container, open up your boxes. You'll have 2 of these. This is a chance for 2 usages. You'll open the blister pack, and it's going to look just like this. You'll take it in between your middle and your index finger and put your thumb on the red trigger. Do not hit it until you're ready. You're going to place and support their head. Place the Narcan nozzle into their nose closest to you, the nostril closest to you, until your fingertips are touching their nostril. Then you'll depress the plunger. At that point, what you want to do is take this plunger and put it beside their body. What that does is when EMS comes in, they'll know exactly how many's been given. You're then going to roll them and place them in what's called the recovery position on their side. You're going to put them facing away from you. And one of the reasons you do this is so that if they happen to aspirate, they won't have an issue. The dosage need for success will be based on the saturation of the particular drug in their system. There's no way that you're going to visually be able to see this. So you'll repeat the 4 milligram dosage every 2 minutes or until EMS shows up. And what you do, the reason you're doing this is you're keeping the individual from suffering an acute withdrawal by not pushing it harder. So you're going to want to only do the Narcan no faster than 2 minutes to allow it a chance to bring them around. And then you'll watch for signs of breathing properly, not necessarily consciousness. If you forget any of these instructions, we've placed the cards with your Narcan on the table. They have the step-by-step instructions. That'll help to remind you. It's important to note that xylazine, with the street name Trank or the zombie drug, is also on the rise. You'll be able to tell somebody who's using this with open sores the need for more Narcan for revival, along with rescue breathing, because it doesn't necessarily work on the xylazine. What it works on is the carrier drug. Just like Sheriff Chitwood and everyone else has said, your drugs are not, they're not your grandma's drugs, they're not your grandpa's drugs. They're adulterated. So if you think you're getting heroin, you're probably not. You're getting xylazine or you're getting fentanyl. So you have to be very mindful. A common misconception is that storing Narcan in the car, especially in the summer, will ruin the product. This is known to not be correct. A fentanyl exposure truth that you need to know is that there have been no documented cases where touching fentanyl has caused an overdose. The amount of fentanyl in pressed pills that can kill are as little as 2 grains of salt. Very tiny. If you or a loved one uses this Narcan to reverse an overdose, please use the contact number on the card provided to let our organization know. This allows me, because I do those reports, to keep an accurate accounting to supply to DCF. This shows them the success and the need for this program to continue. We give our Narcan free of charge to those individuals in the community that we are in contact with. Any business, if you'd like more than what you've been given on your table, you have enough for 4 chances to save somebody's life, please contact Rhino, who is our New Chance Narcan Committee leader, or myself at our resource table. We can also give you deeper instructions and understanding for the need of Narcan and give you a lot more to take home, a lot with other resources that we have. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your open-mindedness and your willingness to help save another's life. Together, we can make a difference.
And now, thank you for closing remarks. We welcome Dr. Alex White. Welcome, Dr. White.
I'm as surprised as you that I'm giving closing remarks with all the experts in the room here, but I'm very honored that I was invited to be here. On a personal note, having worked at Halifax Hospital for the 20 years, it was very frustrating to be over and over seeing patients come in with drug abuse issues. On top of that, I kind of had forgotten about it, but during my residency, Stuart Marchman lost their medical director, and I was the interim medical director for about 3 months. So I did all the intakes, and as a brand new resident, that was very, very eye-opening and very discouraging. And we always wish we had more resources. We wished we could see what other people could see what we were seeing. And when I see all these experts together, all these people with knowledge and caring, wanting to collaborate, this is going to be a collaboration issue. The only thing I can do is a summary here. I liked what Sheriff Chitwood said about, let's look at this as just another disease. It's a disease, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, Alzheimer's disease. People need in all of these circumstances, people with the understanding, the caring, the teamwork. When we do our clinical trials in Alzheimer's disease, we see that once you have people with expertise, knowledge, and caring, and a support built around you, which our team gives these Alzheimer's patients, they start making incremental improvements. I heard that as well. Small bits of success lead to larger continued successes. The other thing I heard here in the room is we're all God's people. We all make mistakes. We all need grace. And we have to give people second, third, 10 chances, 7 times 70 is what the good book says. So we have to be able to not stigmatize, just like diseases. You can't be stigmatized by your disease. This is other diseases. This is a disease as well. So I think we need to find a way to continue these discussions, collaborations. I think we all have great ideas. It's going to be an ongoing process, putting everything together, and I'm very, very happy to do it as a business owner. I've already discussed it. We would love to be able to employ people and be part of the whole process forward in healing people and healing the community. So thank you very much.
So the final takeaway is we have at your tables tabletop discussions, sheets. We would love for you to fill it out. We have a captured audience here, and those that work closely with me know that I like action, and we've got to follow through, and we're going to get this done. So if you could fill out these forms, talk with your neighbors, get to the core of some of the solutions that we can work on in our workforce committee. And stay around, meet with some of the other table vendors, and we look forward to connecting with you afterwards. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.